Hey everyone, this is my math concepts lesson. It's geometry meets art. My standard is for GM 1.2, which is to describe, classify, and sketch quadrilaterals, including squares, rectangles, trapezoids, rhombuses, parallelograms, and kites, and recognize quadrilaterals in various contexts. The objectives is that students will be able to draw quadrilaterals and they will be able to accurately describe different quadrilaterals, and this is a fourth grade level. The materials are art materials. As you can see here, different types of paper, different types of art mediums to work with, pencils, scissors, glue. The index cards and the post-it notes are really important. Those are teacher materials that you'll need to pass out at different stages in the lesson. And then, of course, the students will have access to the art supplies in the classroom, art center that we have, but then they can also choose to use their own supplies if they want to. When we start out the lesson, it's going to be with a grand conversation that's going to be used as a review. We have already gone over all the quadrilaterals listed here, and so the students are going to do a student-led conversation. The teacher's just here to offer guidance as needed and then to write down what the students are saying. So they will not see the list that you guys see right now. This is just for the teacher to know what quadrilaterals we have gone over and to observe and write them down. The activity has multiple steps to follow, and so the first step is to brainstorm. The students at this point, they don't know what the activity is going to be yet. They're just going to go to their desk and they're going to think about something they would like to create using art. They can create anything as long as it is school appropriate. And while they're thinking, the teacher's going to pass out sticky notes that they will put on our goal wall. And when the students figure out what they want to draw, they're going to write it on their sticky note and then go put it up on the wall. And I said draw, but I meant create because it doesn't necessarily have to be a drawing. The next step is to do the activity. And so the instructions for this is that students are going to create the piece of art that they just stuck up on the goal wall, but they can only use quadrilaterals to create the art. So if they're going to draw, for instance, a tree, they'll have to figure out how to make that tree only using the quadrilateral shapes that we have gone over. So it is important for you, if you're teaching this lesson, to go over the glue and scissor safety. And then if a student does seem to need a little bit of help, or they can't think of anything, or they know what they want to use, but they can't think of a quadrilateral to use for it, then you can give them some ideas, but just make sure that that's, you don't go into detail too much, because we do want to make sure that this is an original work of art by the student and not a copy of what somebody else expected them to draw or create. Here's some examples of what art looks like using quadrilaterals. Some of these use other geometric shapes as well. We won't be adding in, like in this one, you can see a triangle. But if a student needed something similar to that, they could always cut a rhombus in half. And then that creates something similar to a triangle. The next step is the reflection. So once they're done with all of their art, we do want them to reflect on it. The reflection is going to be to pick out 3 of the quadrilaterals that they included in their art piece and describe why they chose it to be where it's at. So for below level students, which is this green strip right here, they have a little bit of help with a prompt to help them write. And so, for instance, they could put in, like, I chose a square to represent a house because they both have 4 sides. The next one for on level, their instructions are just going to be written out like this and handed to them, or already on their desk, and they will choose 3 of the quadrilaterals that they used in their art and explain why they chose to represent it. And it does tell them to make sure to include specific characteristics of the quadrilaterals in the reflections, because it is important that we know that they understand, like, a square has 4 sides. Above level, they do the same thing, but there is one extra step for them where they identify an area where they used a certain quadrilateral and then tell us if there was another quadrilateral that could have been used in place of the one they chose. And this is just to kind of get them thinking outside of the box. A different way to kind of view things and what they could have done differently if they think anything could have been done differently. And then for the closure, the class is going to draw names. This can be if you already have them like in a tub, or if you guys use student sticks. Like I know they use that for like PAX leaders and stuff. They'll draw names of their classmate, and this is where you'll give them an index card. On that index card, they're going to write their name, and then they're going to write the name of the student whose art they're going to be admiring. And while they're looking at it, they're just going to jot down some quadrilaterals that they notice and what they're representing in the art, and then they're going to turn this in to the teacher. That's one of the evaluations that I'm doing, and I'll go ahead and start with that one since I just talked about it. That one is the formal summative assessment. Because it is written down and it is going to tell us if they can accurately classify quadrilaterals. The first evaluation, though, that we do is during the grand conversation. The teacher is observing through informal assessment if students are given the correct answers, if they're describing the shapes accurately, if they're participating at all. And then we're also going to be observing as teachers while they create their art. Is the student accurately using the terms? Are they saying a rhombus is a rhombus, or are they saying it's a parallelogram? Are they saying a square is a square? Is it a rectangle? You know, we do want to just make sure that they're using the correct terminology. Obviously, they're not graded on the first two like they would be on the third one, but this is a time for us to step in and kind of guide them and help them out if we notice that they're missing anything.